Hi everybody, this week's Moodle is very near and dear to my heart, and I've actually been researching and writing about this topic for the past couple of years, and so I'm so curious about how you're going to respond and feel about these different articles and different videos and things that are posted this week. The basic concept this week is art education versus art therapy. And there are some things that, some visuals that are posted in this Moodle that I have a real hard time with and really strongly disagree with. And so there's lots of goodies here for you to peruse. And then there's a discussion board. And I want you truthfully to go through all this. And as I'm going through, there are things from my experience as an art educator that I feel very strongly about that I would say, well, I disagree with that, or, oh, I really agree. And how come we don't do this? And how come we need more of this? So I'm going to be doing a discussion board where you get to answer the questions of what you agree and disagree with all the articles that are posted for this week. And then I want you to respond to a peer. All right, I might give you a little extra time on this because I think that in this day and age, and this has to do with my research, I think we have morphed as art educators to a position that we might find ourselves really crossing blurred lines, dealing with trauma and dealing with racial issues and different things that kids and teenagers and gender are, they're all coming out in their artwork. Well, how do we respond as a professional? How do we negotiate their expression, their becoming and developing their individuality, which is one of the things that we say we do as an art educator. We are one of the key components in helping them establish their identity. So I'm very excited about this week. I'm also fired up about it too, because in my research, I interviewed for over an hour each 3 very seasoned high school teachers, and what they had to say in response to what is your role as art educator was very far from product skill facilitator for their students. What came out of it was a lot about the relationship they have with them, about trust and being able to express themselves as creators and giving narratives of their life and feeling very safe in the environment of the art classroom. So as you're reading the different articles, you'll see more of those descriptors in the art therapy and not in the art educator realm of how it's described as the role of art educator as far as technique and skills and product. We've morphed, and I'm very curious to hear what you have to say. Just in this class, in the role of art education at Adelphi, I have had conversations where my students in student teaching have said, how do I reply when that second grader says, pass the racist crayon? How do we respond when children are trying to figure out who they are and who others are around them? Or how a young girl in a high school class does a very explicit piece of artwork of her gender being transformed in a surgical procedure. How do you respond to that, art teachers, when that student has trusted you enough that they are creating artwork to make sense of their being, of their identity, of their gender, of the world around them? And it does come out in our classrooms. So we are not art therapists by trade and by certification, but we are in the mix of it. And when do we call in the art therapist in the school, or the therapist? We don't have art therapists in school. That would be a dream thing, that we have an art teacher and an art therapist, so we have both things addressed. But when do we know to call the counselor or called the principal in that this child said things very scary about guns. A class years ago, I was at Columbia University at Teachers College with my instructor, Judith Burton. We've read many of her articles. She is a big pioneer and still paving the way for art education. And in class, she said, children need to draw guns. They need to make sense of the world around them. They need to draw out violence and things because they're trying to figure it out, make sense. They're trying to see where it fits in the people around them, in the world around them. Is it safe? Is it threatening? Well, in this day and age, if we have that in our classroom, do we get reprimanded by our principal, number one, if we don't report it? Is that child just trying to make sense? So these are all things that I address in my research, and curious, excuse me. I'm curious about what you have to say about it. So please read all the articles, and then I'm going to ask you to respond. All right, signing off. Very, very intense and wonderful, wonderful subject, especially for our teachers entering the field in this day and age. Thank you so much. Bye.